There are those who dream of a better world. Those who strive to climb higher, swim deeper, and venture further than the rest. We call them DaVincis. We marvel at their genius and are awed by their unbreakable spirit. Here they come. Stand back and watch as they inspire the human race by living a DaVinci life.
Hey guys, Rusty Johnson here for A DaVinci Life. Thanks for stopping by. You know, most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid the effects of gravity. That is not the case with my next guest. This is Sean Chuma. Sean Chuma, one of the best base jumper skydivers in the world and wingsuit flyers, has done over 7,000 base jumps. He first caught my attention because when he would jump, he wouldn't just jump and throw to shoot. He would jump, he would flip, he would twist, and not bombastically. I mean, like a trained gymnast. And come to find out, he is a trained gymnast. He's done over 7,000 jumps. He teaches it. Also, too, he's got a very spiritual side. And I really wanted to figure that out about him because it seems that base jumping skydiving is not just an adrenaline sport for him. It's something much, much deeper than that. And we get into that. We also get into on how ayahuasca has helped him out a lot. He found out I got in the Amazon and my ayahuasca arrow, so we had a great conversation about that, which I think you really enjoy. Sean Chuma.
Hey, Sean, how's it going, buddy? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. How's it going?
Good. So you in Idaho now? Or?
Yeah, I am. Yep. Twin Falls, Idaho.
Oh, nice, man. Nice. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. You know, we'll get right to it. The one big question I usually have with all my guests is that, you know, with the passion they have in their life, it usually comes from some type of seed or inspiration they had as a child. Now, that could be easy if you're working with wildlife and stuff, but base jumping, I mean, where do you learn that? You start off on the porch? Do you jump off the house? Or is this something that later on in your teens you started to do? Or how did it all begin?
Yeah, I think it definitely comes from like I think it comes from early age, just being, you know, I know for myself, I just always wanted to like be up in the air, and I was always jumping, kind of like using a pillowcase to jump off my roof and my bed and stuff like that. Yeah, so I was one of those kids that just jumped off of stuff all the time. And then I guess it kind of grew from there. And, you know, eventually I found out I could jump out of airplanes and jump off of stuff. And then, yeah, I ended up learning from someone that would, you know, there's actually schools for it. That's what I do too. I teach people now. And yes, I went to a school and learned how to do it, and it just kind of took off from there.
Now, how did the progression start? Because when I've seen a lot of your content, of course, you skydive, then you base jump and wingsuit. And then what's it called? Speed flying with the kite real?
Yeah, speed flying. Speed flying is kind of like a small paraglider, just real fast. You kind of fly right above the ground. Yeah. So
did you start as skydiving, or you went straight to base jump?
Yeah, the first flying sport I did was skydiving, and then I went to base jumping. So to learn how to base jump, you have to have about 200 skydives before you even start, because in skydiving it's best to learn how to fly a parachute thousands of feet up rather than having such limited time.
And I see a lot of your jumps are from the Purim Bridge and right there in Twin Falls. You've done over 5,000 base jumps now. Did a lot of them came from there, or is that kind of your main place? Or
yeah, so I live real close to a bridge, and I've actually got over 7,000 base jumps.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a bridge here, but I travel all over the world, Malaysia, and I go to the Alps and in Europe and do wingsuit base jumps there, and it's all over the place. But most of them, since I live here right at this bridge, are off of the Purim Bridge.
Now, is that the only bridge that's legal to jump off of in the U.S.?
No, there's another one in West Virginia that is it's legal one day a year. They have an event. It's Fayetteville, West Virginia. It's the New River Gorge Bridge. It's a beautiful bridge. It looks just like ours, but it's a bit higher. It's 876 feet. Wow. And so they have Bridge Day, third Saturday in October. and about 400 or so base jumpers show up every year for that and just jump as much as they can for about 6 hours. So
Yeah, right.
that one's legal. Yeah, one day a year. Hopefully one day, it'd be cool if they made it more like our bridge where you could jump all the time.
Like on that bridge, how many jumps can you get in a day?
I think I've done 10 in a day there in 6 hours, and that's really hustling. So
yeah, that's a hustle. No, the fact that you can jump off the Poreen Bridge, and the fact that you live very close to it, is that coincidence, or did you have a hand in getting that legalized?
no, so I moved here about 14 or 15 years ago from San Diego, and people were already allowed to jump off of there. And basically the deal is to jump off our bridge, it's kind of like a self-regulated sport. And yeah, people were already doing it. And Idaho is such a cool state that they kind of let you get to do what you want, and you can risk your own life as long as you're not hurting other people.
Right.
So they just basically don't stop people from it. And it's also really like highly embraced by our community. I mean, it kind of puts this place on the map, and
Sure.
It's part of our tourism. It brings a lot of people in, even just to watch people jump,
Yeah.
So it's very unique that we get to.
What caught my eye with you was I've seen, base jumpers, and a lot they jump and they pull their chute and go down. And then I watch you jump and you're flipping and you're twisting. And that's the first time I saw that. Now I looked a little bit more into you. You actually have a gymnastics background. And how does that help? Or how does that help with you, or how did that help develop you as a base jumper?
Yeah, I'd say it's a huge factor in what I do now. I always did like all kinds of different sports, like skiing, and I was a pole vaulter too. And I was just always training to do different things like gymnastics. I actually started doing flips and stuff before I was in gymnastics, and then I was lucky enough to have my parents let me get into gymnastics when I was in Oklahoma. That's where we used to live. Basically, that taught me a lot of awareness, awareness of everything around me, and being able to be in different positions in space. So spatial awareness within base jumping is huge, because you're just kind of out there. Once you jump, it actually feels probably a lot like when you'd be in, if you were in space. And I've never been in space. I would like to, but I think it feels a lot like that because you're weightless, and you're kind of just at the mercy of whatever energy you put into the object you're jumping off of. So doing the flips and everything, all that came from my gymnastics background. And that's why I do it. I mean, it's been really helpful, and that's the reason I do everything. I wouldn't do the same tricks if I didn't do gymnastics.
Now, is it easy to find legal places to jump nowadays, or is that kind of one of the biggest challenges?
There's a handful. I mean, there's quite a few places, especially if you're willing to travel. Buildings are kind of the most difficult because there's certain countries, like a lot of the Asian countries love base jumping. So they'll have base jumping events and invite, a lot of different base jumpers from all over the world to come jump off of these buildings. In the US, that doesn't happen much because I think the building owners are worried about liability issues.
Sure.
So it doesn't happen as much here. But as far as other places that you can jump, different places on BLM land are okay, like a lot of places in Moab, Utah. And then also a lot of us go to Europe and jump in the Alps and the Dolomites. And so there's definitely a lot of places, but there's definitely a lot of places where you're not really allowed to. So when people go jump those kind of things, they kind of just do them and then, leave quietly. And the idea is for nobody to ever really know. So
yeah. Have you ever gotten arrested for jumping off a legal area?
I've been close. I've had some people kind of, try to chase after. And then I've also been stopped on a certain bridge in a different place where it turned out the sheriff that we spoke with, he ended up being really nice, and he understood what we were doing. Basically, he said that someone called in, said someone jumped off a bridge. So he wanted to know if he needed to get a team down there to look for a suicide, or if it was just us jumping off. And eventually we told him, yeah, it was us. And he just said that, I understand you guys are just out here having fun, but remember, you're probably not supposed to be doing this. I probably could cite you for something, but I have no idea what it is. So just remember, you're probably not supposed to do this. And they let us go, and he was really cool. So
that's cool. I live in upstate New York, and we have this perfect train bridge that isn't used anymore. And it'd be great for base jumping, great for bungee jumping, but it's right next to one of the main roads. And the reason they didn't approve it is because the people driving would be thinking people are committing suicide all the time, and they were afraid that would cause accidents more so than jumping off the bridge would.
Yeah, maybe they should just put up a couple signs or something so that people driving can see, you know.
Yeah, we're not that open-minded up here, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a bummer sometimes that, you know, I think base jumping is something that, you know, like we celebrate it. It's an amazing sport. Yeah. It's, you know, I mean, we're jumping off of stuff. It's an art, you know, and I think it would be a shame to try to stop people, or to, you know, when you know, larger groups of people start trying to protect us from ourselves, it's kind of a shame, because I think people should be able to express themselves in kind of whatever artistic or physical way they can, as long as it's not hurting other people.
What I see is it's not just some adrenaline junkie wanting to do crazy shit to catch a buzz. For you, it's a lot deeper than that. What's the mental, the emotional part of doing it, and why you do it?
I think for myself, you know, you're right. I'm not the typical guy that is like chasing after an adrenaline rush. I'm not, you know, like, I think that's just kind of a stereotypical thing, the word adrenaline junkie. And for me, I actually find a lot of peace in being, you know, just free off the ground. Just the amount of precision that it involves is kind of what I'm after. I mean, I love that laser focus that you have to have while you do these types of sports. You know, there's no mistakes allowed. I mean, you have to be completely on point, and it does take a lot of thought and just calculations in order to do these things. And you wouldn't know that from watching the videos on YouTube or anything. It might seem kind of just like someone's putting on a parachute and going for it, and that they need mentality of a crazy person, but it's much more of a, you know, something for a person that's just really calculated and has a certain type of genius for, you know, for, I guess, these type of physical activities. You know, flying is amazing.
I can relate to it. I work with wildlife and venomous snakes and potentially dangerous animals. And for me, what I like, especially with the venomous snakes, is, like you say, the laser focus you need to do what you need to do. And for me in my life, I'm so ADD, and it feels like if my head was a TV, the channels are always changing and somebody else has the remote. Yeah. And it isn't until I put myself into a life and death situation like that allows me to bring in that laser focus. And it's a wonderful place to be in. So I can relate to that. On the other hand, I'd rather fucking juggle cobras than jump off one of those bridges like you do. But I still get the vibe, you know. But the thing I like about you as well is that you are so open to share it. I see so many people, I mean, not just in jumping, but in general, in any of someone with expertise, a lot of times they want to hoard it for themselves. And you seem to be extremely generous with your knowledge and your experience. And I saw that incredible footage of you tandem base jumping with that woman. Was she 103 years old?
Oh yeah, 102. Dorothy 102? Yeah.
Oh man, that looks so incredible. And you know what, man, when you could see when she first got worried, but when she cracked that smile, you felt it, man. What a beautiful moment that was. Yeah. What was that like, taking her on the trip?
Oh, it was so it was very rewarding, because, you know, naturally I was a bit worried, because when you're 102 years old, everything is kind of brittle, and, you know, it's not like you can take a hit. So I just didn't want to hurt her, but at the same time, you could tell she wanted to do it. you know, and I didn't want to be the guy to say that I didn't want to. I understood there was a certain amount of risk, but
Right.
we were both in it together, and you know, I just wanted to be successful. So that's kind of what I focused on, is just landing as soft as completely possible. And it turned out so nice. And we ended up being really good friends after that. And we took her on a hot air balloon ride for her 103rd birthday the next year. And then,
Very cool.
and then she made it almost to 104.
Wow.
And then she passed away. And
Well,
it
what
was
a
just,
run.
it was
man.
a good celebration of the last, it was just such a cool way for her to go out, you know, I mean, just doing all this cool stuff. We actually got to jump out of the hot air balloon.
Really?
Yeah, she stayed in there. She stayed in there playing a harmonica. And me and my friends jumped out while she's playing the harmonica. And it's
Oh, that's great, man. Now, tell me, what is the origin of the Russian swing?
Oh.
That thing is insane, man.
So it's what I know about the Russian swing is that it's definitely a circus contraption. You know, you see them in circuses all the time. And it's made to be a catapult. It's a pretty simple type device where, you know, it's usually two people on a platform swinging back and forth, and then basically on the upswing, a person jumps off of it and just gets thrown, you know, really far distances. And so guys in circuses do tons of flips into water and into airbags and stuff like that. And so I just like the idea of being completely launched off of things, you know, whether it's like I'd probably, if I knew how to do a human cannonball thing, you know, the human cannons, I'd probably do one of those too, depending on how bad it hurts. I don't know if those hurt or not, but anyways, it's cool to be just catapulted off of things. So I was speaking with my friend Donald Schultz a long time ago, who was a snake guy. I don't know, maybe you've heard of him, but
name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he does a bunch of anti-venom stuff he lives in South Africa. I've actually handled a bunch of snakes, by the way.
Oh, cool, man. Check this out. Not to get off subject, but this is a bushmaster.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, I caught this in the Amazon and milked the venom because I self-envenomate. And so I got the venom, but when I let it go, the native who lived there came up behind me and killed it because it ended up killing his dog.
Oh,
so I went and caught it and then let it go. And he says, "Oh, you found it?" I said, "Yeah." And then he went out in the bush and unfortunately killed it. So I felt bad. So I skinned it and actually ate it. 9 foot. It was a lot of eating to do.
Wow.
I didn't want it to go to waste, but then I was able to preserve the head at least. So
that's cool.
I've
handled black mambas, and I've been really close to a fer-de-lance and different kinds of cobras, like even spitting cobras and forest cobras, and I don't know, all kinds of stuff, puff adders and
fer-de-lance are nuts. Yeah. My wife's a shaman from the Amazon. I've got it there for 15 years.
Oh, cool.
And so I thought about 6 bushmasters and 17 or 18 fer-de-lance. They're just tiny and they're like shot out of a cannon on meth. They're nuts, man.
Yeah, they're so fast. Yeah, I used to be so afraid of snakes, but not as much anymore, because now I understand that they're not just going to charge me. You know, that your initial, like, your instinct is like, get away. But after you observe them a bit, you kind of notice that it's like you have to threaten them for the most part, or somehow sneak up on them. Yeah. But anyways, I guess we should go back to what
the Russian swing.
Yeah. So where were we with that?
The guy from South Africa in the Russian swing.
Okay, so yeah, we talked about the Russian swing and how cool it would be, and then eventually, my friend Travis, a base jumper that I worked with a lot. You know, he was a student of mine, and he's a really good guy. Used to be a stuntman. He ended up, then he brings up, have you ever thought about jumping off a Russian swing? And I'm like, yeah, me and Donald used to talk about this all the time. And he says, I can build one. And he had actually been on Russian swings, you know, being a stuntman. So he built one, and then he brought it out to Twin Falls on a trailer, and we found a place where we could back it up to a cliff, which was pretty hard to find. But and then we ended up trying it out. Actually, we tried it out in the water a lot first. We practiced a lot, and then I jumped it off a cliff like 400 something feet, and Travis did too. And it was pretty terrifying that time, but it was really fun. And then we took it to Moab, Utah, and jumped it off some cliffs there. And then we decided we needed a bit more training to do it properly, because we're wanting to do this off of some buildings, and I have a certain building in mind in a different country. And so we went to this stunt school down in Florida. This guy, John Zimmerman, who's he's like a trapeze guy and trampolines and Russian swing. And Travis knew him when he was younger. So we go out to this guy's house. He's got all these setups, do about probably 200 different Russian swing jumps into airbags and everything, just to kind of really get things going. And get practiced up. And so now we're just kind of waiting on, this COVID stuff kind of messed things up as far as travel, but eventually we're going to go get thrown off of some buildings and stuff like that.
Nice. Now, when you're jumping buildings, is it a totally different dynamic when it comes to finding a place to land? If you're in a city as opposed to being, over water outside somewhere.
It is. It's more difficult, but you kind of scope all that stuff out beforehand. So I mean, if we went to a building, we would know, we'd be walking around on the ground, seeing where all the power lines are and power poles and traffic lights, and we would have a designated landing area, but also we would have alternate landing areas in case we couldn't make it back to our landing area. And so we have a good basically a good cognitive map of where everything is. But yeah, there are a lot more obstacles to look out for on buildings. And also the wind is more of a factor, because in urban areas the wind will be blowing one way on one street and then be coming from the opposite direction, so you're getting these rotors and so yeah, it's definitely a bit more involved.
And in a place like that, I mean, how much like square footage spot would you need? What you would say would be a safe landing zone?
The bigger the better, but I would say I can land in really small landing areas, but I mean, having at least like, I don't even know, 100 feet by 100 feet would be nice. Basically a longer strip is the best, because we can line it up real well from side to side. Basically need maybe, 2 or 3 times the width of the parachute. But the length is, sometimes you go a little bit farther than you intend if the wind is kind of weird. So.
Have you had any accidents? I mean, obviously not where nothing opened up. We wouldn't be talking today, but maybe the chute just half opened or opened late, and any injuries?
Yeah, I did destroy my knee about, I think it's 8 years ago. I was jumping off it was at the bridge here where I live, and I'm just jumping over the rail, kind of like you would jump over a fence, just put my hands on it and hop my feet over. And so nothing real serious, or nothing difficult. And I ended up in kind of a body position, like I was standing up while I was falling, so feet first. And I kind of started rotating backwards a little bit. So I threw my pilot chute. That's the thing that gets everything started as far as the extraction of the parachute. And it kind of bound up where it wasn't coming out. And it was it probably took about it was probably only an extra second. Eventually it came out, but the riser, the part that comes off my shoulder, ended up under my leg, and it just bent my knee in half sideways and tore everything in there. And so I had a really long recovery for that. And it still doesn't feel the same, but that was a pretty bad one. I ended up landing in the water. I felt like my leg had gotten ripped off from the knee down, because it was just burning. And it's pretty scary. And I was just in denial about it for a couple of days. I was like, oh, maybe I just sprained it or something. But eventually I got an MRI, and it was like everything in there was torn.
Would you say that you have a healthy obsession with parachutes?
Yeah, I think it's very healthy. I mean, like I said, I value it. I don't feel like I take it for granted. I mean, it's good because I get to meet people from all over the place. I get to teach people also. And that's part of it for me as I get older is being able to kind of pass down the from my experience of my
Mhm.
7,000 jumps, and not only my jumps, but I watch a lot of people's jumps as well.
Mhm.
And I learn a lot from watching people.
Mhm.
And I think it's really good for me to be able to pass down the information rather than people having to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I love flying. I know that myself and nobody else is invincible.
Mhm.
So I totally respect it. And I think about the possibilities, the possible outcomes before each jump. And I just really try to, listen to like how I feel on the inside and the external variables to decide what I'm going to do on each jump. I really kind of like try to feel all the feelings around me before I jump, just because I feel like I get a lot of information from like internal and external sources.
Sure. As far as the physical chute itself, is this something where you don't have a wall of parachutes and you just grab one off the wall and then you go and you take your jump? Is it almost become the relationship with that? I mean, it saves your life all the time. So do you almost have your favorite chute that you always use, or do you have various? Or
I have several, but I do have ones that I, for different styles of jumping. Some of them open slower than others, which is nice on my body. And some of them are faster than others. Like I have a little small one that goes, I use that for just jumping off, and it opens right away because I just hold it in my hand. And basically it looks like I'm throwing it up in the air. And the whole purpose of that one is just for really fast landings. And I'll come across and drag my foot on the river and then land on the land there. And I really like doing that a lot just because there's a high amount of precision involved in that.
Sure.
And then for when I'm doing flips and more things in free fall, I have a different one for that. And then if I was going to jump, off of cliffs or buildings that weren't very tall, then I have ones that open really fast and can land in small landing areas a bit better. So yeah, it's kind of just, you use the specific tool for the job.
For each one. How many jumps did you have under your belt before you started teaching?
I think it was around 1,000 or so.
That's got to be rewarding. What's the age, the demographic? Teenager, 20s, 30s, you get some older people. Who seems to have the most interest in it lately?
Well, it's a huge range of people. I'd say low 20s up to, I've taught some people that are nearly 70.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and those guys are super cool. They come out and want to learn how to jump. Usually they're really prepared and don't have, you worry about the younger guys sometimes because how when you're younger, you kind of have that really go for it attitude.
Yeah.
Not really thinking about consequences so much. And the older guys just kind of come and usually bring a bit more of a mature attitude towards it. But yeah, it's all kinds, there's not usually many teenagers because you can't really start skydiving usually until you're about 18. Yeah. And then, they got to build up like 200 jumps or so. Right. But I definitely had some young guys, and a lot of them are really cool, and just I try to help them see both sides of the spectrum as far as, there's all these nice positive things that, come from base jumping, like how you feel, and it's really fun. But also there's this other side where it's another reality that you can't just shoo away. You have to realize that's there, the possibility of death or severe injury. You have to realize it's there and use that to make better decisions. It's all about making the wisest decision in each moment.
Right.
It's much easier said than done, but
then you can even transfer that to life too.
Exactly.
It's very metaphorical. When did you get into flying the wingsuits?
So I've been flying wingsuits for, I think the first time I flew a wingsuit was probably almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
On a skydive, and they weren't like they are now. I think the first one I flew, it was just basically these flaps under your arms and between your legs. And it actually, I didn't think it was that much fun. I mean, it was pretty cool, but I was like, that's pretty cool. But then they started making them where they actually inflate. So it's more like a parachute. The air just rams in there and it makes it more like a rigid wing. And it started getting really fun, and they just get better and better every year. And I work with a company called Squirrel that, like, they make awesome ones where you can actually do all kinds of different maneuvers, and just basically the more experience you get on a wingsuit, you just feel more at home, and you just start to feel like a little fighter jet, and it's really addicting, because the better you get, I mean, you're just in more control and more confidence, but you still understand, the variables, and I love it.
That intrigues the hell out of me. How much does an average wingsuit cost?
I think they're about, could be wrong, somewhere around $2,000 for a brand
That's
new
not
one.
bad though, for what it does for you.
Yeah, and then you can use them for, I don't know, hundreds of jumps. And then there's different styles too. I mean, there's beginner suits, which are small, and then as you get better, usually you're using at least a little bit bigger suit, and then same thing, just different tools for different jobs. Some of them glide more, some of them just haul ass. Yeah, and then there's kind of all around ones, but all different kinds of styles of them.
And then the speed flying too, and that's something as well. You can just take a run and jump off the top of a hill and do that, right? But
basically it's like a little paraglider, and you start running, and then it pops up above your head, and you can do it with skis on too, which I do sometimes. It's real fun. So you're skiing, and you can just, you're going down the mountain, you can skip off a spot, you can stay on the ground with this thing above your head, and then, boost up off the ground. But otherwise without skis, you would just start running down the hill, and it's kind of like riding a mountain bike down a hill or skiing, but you're flying right over the ground.
How fast you get going?
It depends on the size of the wing. So some guys use like an 8-meter wing or so, and they must be going like, I don't know, 60 or 70 miles an hour over the ground, like fast enough to, if you touch the ground with your foot the wrong way, your foot would probably explode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man. What's the most memorable jump you've ever done, and where was it?
I guess the first one that comes to mind, because I could probably ponder that all day, is this. There's a certain wingsuit jump I did in Italy, in the Dolomites, and it was this one where I was with some really good friends, my friend Marshall and my friend Jesse, and this girl Taz. She's super cool too, and we're all going up to this. None of us had jumped it before. Did this really beautiful hike, and we got to the place where the jump was, and it's into this canyon that's really narrow. So usually on a wingsuit jump, you jump in and there's a lot of open area. This, you had to jump into it. It's like jumping into a basketball hoop, basically. And and I was like, oh my gosh, this is, I don't even know how to explain the feelings that we had, but it was like, kind of terrifying, and my friend Marshall went first, and that's always a good gauge, because you can learn from someone else's line,
I had a neighbor like that. Whenever we did anything stupid, I let you do it first, man.
Make him go first. Marshall was definitely the bravest out of us that day, so but so you jump in, and the wingsuit starts flying, and a couple 100 feet or so, and then you just dive through this thing, and parts of it were maybe 10 feet wide, maybe a little bit less, but you're just screaming, going like 160 miles an hour above the ground in this little canyon, and you can't just pull your parachute, because you would just be bouncing all over the walls and everything. And you got to go fast, because when you come out of this thing, you still have to get above the ground high enough to open your parachute. So you got to have speed, that's one of the main things with wingsuit base jumping, is just having a ton of speed, so that at any time you can pull up, because we're not using motors, we're using gravity. And with that speed, you're able to, you just have more power to get higher off the ground. But this jump was just full on. One of the most intense ones I've done. I've had a lot of other ones too, but we do. There's a video of that. It's called Line of Sight, that one of our, this company that we're good friends with, Kavu, it's Kavu. that they kind of helped produce it. It's just like an internet video, but it's super cool and it shows that.
I'll definitely check that out. You were with Nitro Circus. What was that like?
Yeah, I did a show with them in Durban, South Africa. My friend Donald helped me get involved with them because he worked with Nitro Circus for a long time. He's producer and does all this stuff. And anyways, he kind of showed them around and introduced me to them. I did know Eric Rohner before that. I'd seen him out here at the bridge, him and Travis Pastrana. And anyways, they called me up to go down to Durban and jump into this stadium called Moses. It's the Moses Mabhida Stadium. It's a big soccer field, and it's got a big arch over the top of it. It's a beautiful stadium. And Donald and I had jumped it several years earlier without permission. We just kind of went up in the middle of the night. And so I went out there, and the idea was for me to take someone from the crowd on a tandem base jump into the show. And it was going to be a tribute to Eric Rohner, who had jumped into the stadium before. And he's just a complete legend. Base jumper, ski base jumper also, and skier. He was super humble and nice guy. And so they wanted to do a tribute to him and thought it'd be cool to get the crowd involved. So they picked someone from the crowd and right in the middle of the show, I jumped in with them. And Travis Pastrana was up there on the microphone.
This is absolutely insane. The wind is howling up here, but a world's first tandem base jump with one of the best skydivers in the world. Sean, it's in your hands, buddy. 3, 2, 1, see ya!
And it turned out really cool. Amazing tribute. And got to hang out with all those guys, and all the athletes are just legends, they're so good at what they do.
I know, man.
Some of the stuff they do. I slid down the mega ramp on my butt, and that was scary enough. I couldn't imagine going down that thing on wheels, and I would need a parachute to land that thing.
No, it's insane. On Thursday, I'm talking with Robbie Madison, and
oh, nice, I met him. Yeah.
Oh man, he's out of this world too. Man. The difference between, let's say, professional and amateur is it all about the money. What would you say that the difference is? Because I know you're a professional, so what would separate you, say, from the amateur? Just because of something they do on the weekend, or this is your full-time gig? Or
I would say it's just the experience. It's something I love to do, and I've always loved it. So I eventually it ended up being my profession because people want to learn from someone that's experienced and that can kind of point them in the right direction. So it's not, it's really nice that I've made it my career and that I'm able to support myself with it. But I love it. It's still my passion. Even if I'm not teaching a class or taking someone on a tandem base jump, I still go jump. Like yesterday I took 2 people on tandem base jumps, and then I went and did a jump with a friend of mine after. And so I still, it's something I do for work. It's something I do for fun. And it's just, I always respect it still. And I still want to continue getting better and better at it. It's all about just like fine tuning the precision. And
right.
I feel like I just have done it enough where I keep things really precise.
Last weekend you were skimming too. What's that about?
Yeah, Saturday we have a little local ski resort. It's tiny, but it's awesome. And they made a little pond, and it ended up being perfect weather. It was probably 60 something degrees up there, and they made this pond where you had to go down on skis or a snowboard and try to skim across it, kind of like you're water skiing. I would say the failure rate was very high, so it's probably about 80% crashes. And I got a bunch of cool videos too for you. So
fantastic.
Yeah, Yeah, they're not the best. They're just phone videos, but yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, they turned out real cool, and people were wiping out. I went across it like 3 times, but I noticed that everybody was going too slow and they just wouldn't make it across. So we just like bombed the hill and went across.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go across it in my snowmobile, but it's a ski resort, so they kind of can't really do that there. But towards the end of the day, there was a guy that he went and he just tomahawked into the water, and I guess his ski jabbed through this tarp that was keeping the water in there. It was the liner of the pond, and so he made a hole and it actually just drained like a bathtub. You can see a whirlpool in there and everything. So the party was kind of over after that.
He must have been pissed at him, man.
Yeah. And then aside from that, yeah, I love snowmobiling. It's one of my favorite things to do because I can just go out in the backcountry and get way far away from anyone, and just, you know, some of the places you can go are amazing, and the machines that, you know, the snowmobiles that they make nowadays are just ridiculous. You can climb all kinds of hills and do all kinds of tricks. And I'm not like doing I'm not doing flips or anything on mine and huge jumps, but there's guys out there that are amazing, and I've got high respects for them. But yeah, I love riding them. And then I do another motorsport too, which is called it's a paramotor. You ever heard of that? So it's like the little fan backpack.
Oh yeah, the fan backpack with the chute.
Yep. So I do that, and that's super fun because you can I cruise around the canyon here where I live and different places, and you know, it's just a nice way to explore. It's kind of like, I would say it'd be equivalent to riding a dirt bike or a little motor scooter around in the sky.
That's cool.
Yeah. And you can get pretty sporty with it too. So
do you need any permit for that, or you can just buy it and do it?
It falls under like experimental or something, because you don't have a passenger, so it's a bit different. There are like restricted areas that, I mean, you don't want to be flying around an airport or anything.
No.
But we usually stay a lot closer to the ground, so we don't have to worry about air traffic as much. I mean, we're still always looking out for planes and stuff, but yeah, it's
when you say close to the ground, how many feet is close to the ground for you?
Anywhere from like dragging my feet to, you know, about 100 feet up. I mean, I can go a lot higher, but it's fun to be close to the ground.
Yeah, you feel it more.
Yeah, you can tell the speed. And
I have a question I think I already know the answer to, but I'll ask anyway. You think there'll ever be a day where you're going to say, all right, I'm too old for this shit, it's done, and I'll work on more promotion or something? Or are you just going to die with your boots on and keep on going until you're told to stop?
I don't know. I really think that I'll probably do it the rest of my life. I think, you know, one of the things that becomes an issue is just staying healthy and being able to do it, you know, like being active. And hopefully with, you know, modern medicine, I can just, you know, continue to be healthy, because I've definitely done a lot of sports and my body's taken a beating, and occasionally it hurts pretty bad. So yeah, I hope to do it forever. You know, I really love it. I don't really want to be like, the idea of like you said, getting more into promotion or anything. It doesn't really sound that fun to me. Although being on like a team or something, or being like a manager of a team of just awesome athletes would be pretty fun to me. But you know, the way I do things now, I do all this stuff because I love it, and I just want to continue doing things that I like to do, things that don't really feel so much like work, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, because for me, it's all about the passion of the stuff I do, and I just want to keep doing that. I want to keep having fun. Anything
that you're longing to do? Any jump that you haven't done yet? Any place you want to jump you haven't done yet, or is that list long, or you have one top of the list you need to do?
Yeah, it's long, but you know, when we were talking earlier about the Russian swing, I thought of this one thing I would really like to do. I don't know if I'll ever get to do it. I would like to like hang on to a wrecking ball. You know, the wrecking balls they used to use? Like, smash them. I don't know if they even do that anymore, but I think that'd be really cool to just like hang on to one of those and get the crane operator to just really get it swinging like really high, and then bail off of that, because I think I would go like a really long way. That just sounds really fun. I mean, I would love that. It sounds pretty easy. And yeah, that's one of the things. But
Dude, I love what you do. Still don't have the nuts to do it. I do a lot of what you do, but it's in my mind when I drink ayahuasca. So that's good enough for me right now. But if I ever get the urge, I'll come out to Idaho and take some lessons, man.
yeah, so where have your ceremonies been? Can we tell me about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. So I've been going to the Amazon for 15 years. Started filming there, and I did a TV show called Hotel Amazon for the Travel Channel, and then I've been guiding there for years. And my wife's a third generation shaman, so I've worked with shamans for a good number of years now. So down there we bring in spiritual people. Some people have problems with addiction as well. All different types who come down, and not only do I do the ayahuasca and the cambo, which is it's the mucus from a tree frog.
Right.
And burn it, and you do that. So I do cambo as well. It's great. It changes a lot of lives, and at the same time, I bring them out to my preserve, and they get to be immersed into the Amazon life and the village life, as opposed to going as a tourist. So it's my wife's family as well, and so it's all total immersion. But I also
is she Shipibo?
no, she's Bora.
Cool.
This is the Shipibo right here. That was the Shipibo, yeah. She's a Bora.
Yeah, I've got a little tapestry right across from me right now. It's a Shipibo one. So.
Ah, cool, man. Yeah, it's great. I love it. I'm actually developed a TV series right now I'm working on called Amazon Detox to bring trauma victims down there, people with addiction, and not only to put them through the regimen with the shamans, but at the same time I take them on, I don't want to say survival missions, but it's going to be a survivor thing, but to where they get connected with nature and use that as part of their therapy. And lucky enough, I got Dr. Drew interested in it from Love Line. Dr. Drew Pitts.
Yeah, okay, I know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so we're producing it together, but with Corona coming out and all that crap, we kind of have it on ice because what production company wants to do a huge production like that in this environment right now, not knowing which way it's going to go.
That's cool. I think it's really cool what you do because I'm also involved in that area.
Oh,
not
very
like
cool.
I'm more on the not the working side of it. I've had like maybe 16 ceremonies.
Nice.
And I think it's really been beneficial for my life. I totally see the value behind it, and I totally feel like there's something lost with our way of medicine now, and I totally understand that the plants and the way that the indigenous people lived is amazing. Just that connection with all the plants and nature, and it makes me pretty sad to see that things aren't like that. That we've lost touch with that way of life, and I kind of I'm really interested in it, and I just I kind of hope that we can somehow get back to that, because it's obvious that that's a really important thing for humans, to be connected with nature rather than it being this, we just live on this rock,
Yeah,
so
and it's frustrating up here in New York because like everywhere else in this country, I mean, I'm just seeing people just being ravished by the opioid epidemic, and I've seen just so many positive results of using ayahuasca and using the natural medicine that, and it's not the magic bullet. They have to do the work and want it and do all that stuff. But the way that it can rewire the brain,
because it's very opening and healing.
A guy that I was casting for my show, a psychiatrist, he's done ayahuasca over 300 times. And he says you can meet with a psychiatrist 50 times or you can take ayahuasca once.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is being told to me by a psychiatrist. So that tells you how amazing it is, man.
I heard the same thing from a guy that I know, that same thing. He's like, yeah, it's like 20 years of psychotherapy in like, one day, basically. It's true. It's like so much information coming into your mind and just like revealing, that's what I always think of as like, it's like a great revealer of
Yeah.
so much.
And it, to me, the work is afterwards. It's trying to process everything.
Yeah.
I've had incredible experiences with it, and it's absolutely changed my life. And my wife, who was born and raised, her mother, took ayahuasca when she was born, but has this way about her that is like such an old soul that, even though I've got her on the years, I strive to get the vibe and the wisdom that this woman has naturally.
Oh man, that's great. And she's
Yeah.
from Peru, your wife?
Yeah, born and raised in the Amazon. First time she left
Yeah.
Peru was with me 2 years ago.
Okay. Man, that's awesome. That's cool. I had no idea that you were that we were going to be talking about this. That's cool. Because it's a huge part of my life, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how much of that.
What got you into it, first of all? I didn't realize that either. That was part of your life.
My friend Donald, I feel like you two should like link up somehow. I just talked to him this morning. He just randomly called. He lives in South Africa now. He lived in LA for a while. He grew up in Durban, working at a snake park. He's doing he's got this thing called Snake Farm, PHARM. So he's working on antivenom in a different way rather than using the horses.
I've heard of him before. That Snake Farm sounds familiar to me.
I was in South Africa with him for his wedding or something like that. And I think it was that trip. And then he's like talking to me about it. And then turned out they had a opening because the place is booked up. I mean, it gets a lot of traffic, as a lot of those places I'm sure do. But and so I ended up going down there on his, because he had been there and kind of checked the place out. Because I was a bit hesitant. I mean, I wouldn't send any of my friends to a place where I hadn't been.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of how it started, and then I've just kind of done a few here in the States also that have been awesome since then. And it's but I remember even back in college, I was just real interested in I think one of the first books I read was the book by Timothy Leary, Tune In, Turn On, something like that.
Tune Out.
And I was like, whoa, people, because I was thinking about all this stuff, but in school they weren't really talking about it, and then you get everybody thinks you're crazy and just some hippie or something. And then I had a class called in college, I had a class called Transpersonal Psychology. Mm-hmm. And it was the study of spiritual development. And in the class, we had to read all these books about Eastern mysticism. And we even had to go to like this yoga class. And basically it was real involved with meditation. And then a lot of it was actually covering psychedelics and kind of therapeutic uses and stuff. And so that's when I saw, it's not just, there's actually some like sort of science behind it rather than just, the internal thoughts about it. Cause it's pretty hard to communicate to people that, they think you're crazy. So,
I finally, between ayahuasca and Cambo, I've had people think I'm absolutely nuts until they saw an article in the New York Times about it. And then suddenly, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before that, they thought I was freaking nuts.
My teachers and my pole vault coach and everybody thought I was nuts all through college. And then I finally left and I was like, I moved to California with my dad, and I was like, this place is a little better anyways for it.
Yeah. One thing that my wife and I try to do is, as I say, do the immersion and in small groups. I was actually helping shamans for about 5 years in the Amazon with ayahuasca and never took it myself. I knew I'd know when it was time. And then there was a couple times where I felt it was time, but then I'm in a room with like a half dozen, hey, what's up, Kat? And with like a dozen other people I didn't know. And I've seen, my experience with some people freak the hell out, man. So I'm like, I don't want to be around there. So, what we do and we specialize in is it's all private. So not only it's going to be you and the people that you're with in the ceremony, and that's it, and the shamans. But then you live with us as it's a family. It's not a lodge. It's with the local families. We're next to a village, so you get to play soccer and volleyball with the villagers and the kids and stuff, and go out and canoeing and do all that stuff. So it's fun, but it's private. I've led groups of 32 high school kids, and as well as, Explorer Club members. And it just, that whole process goes so much better when it's more of a solitary, small group as opposed to everybody from everywhere doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
That's
awesome,
real
man.
cool, man. I didn't realize you're into that. That's great.
Yeah.
But listen, man, I'll let you go. And Sean, thanks so much for letting me talk to you. And I'll keep in touch, man. We got to hook up sometime once all this pandemic crap falls
That'd be cool.
wayside, man. And I'll bring some ayahuasca with me.
Cool.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot, Sean. You have a good one.
All right. Yeah.
All right,
You
bye.
too. Bye.
A DaVinci Life.